Blog Talk Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, leave it in the ring.
And welcome back to another edition of Leaving Room Radio. I'm your host, Dave Duenez, with my co-host, Mr. Gabriel Montoya. It's good to be back. It's Monday. It's a beautiful day outside. It's not raining. It's not cold. It's actually like a t-shirt type of day, to tell you the truth, Gabriel. I don't know about yourself. You've been outside. How is it over there in San Francisco? Is it nice and warm
gorgeous,
now?
Dude. It's beautiful right now. You know, and the daylight savings time, spring forward and all that just happened right this weekend. So
right,
it really is like spring has sprung here. I just went for like a long run right before the show, like, and dude, it's just beautiful. Like it's just like the lights hitting everything just right. All the as you can tell, I'm also like got hit by all the pollen in the spring, so like I can't breathe. It's kind of the first time it's happened to me. It might be the expiration date now that I'm almost 46. Is the warranty is finally out and I've got allergies going on. But no, it's great, dude. It made everybody else under snow or tornadoes or whatever. I'll stick with my fires and my earthquakes for this kind of weather.
I went out today to Sonora, which is a little bit past Sonora, like 30 minutes past Sonora, called Phoenix Lake. I had to go out there and I did a vehicle for an older gentleman, and I'll actually post a video of his of what he did in his backyard. And when I was traveling out there, I was trying to take a glimpse of the drive, which is on 108. If you've never been on 108, it's a beautiful drive. It's not too curvy. I mean, there's some curves here and there, but it's not that bad. Okay, it's not like if you don't, if you glance away, you can wreck. I mean, you probably could, but I'm a hell of a driver. You know what I mean? I'm not a Lyft driver, Gabriel, but I'm still a pretty good driver. And but when I was going out there, I was like, man, this is so beautiful, because everything was green. And when the higher you go up in Sonora, there was a little bit of snow still, but it was still warm enough. And it was just super gorgeous. The lake was beautiful. And I was thinking to myself, because a lot of guys in the same business that I'm in, they're in the East Coast, and they still got to endure that cold, the freezing cold out there. And I was just thinking to myself, well, that's why it pays for me to be in California.
Oh, no doubt. Like some of the drives here, though, speaking of dangerous, I was at it driving with Lake Tahoe, like during the fires, and like when the smoke was like so bad, like we had to escape. We were like, we need to, like, about 10 days in or 7 days in, and I was driving up there, and we're like, let's drive around the lake, and I'd never done that before. There's this road on Lake Tahoe that's like the most terrifying road. It's already pretty windy and everything, and locals are kind of pushing you from behind, driving a little fast, and you're like, dude, I don't know this road, I'm not trying to die. But there's this road that goes, like, it cuts down the middle of Lake Tahoe at one point. And so you're just, like, way up high in the air with nothing but death on either side of you. And it's like a 2-lane road. It's just fucking terrifying. I love the drive.
That's the only time right. But that's like the only time you really drive with both hands on the steering wheel. You know what I mean?
10 and 2 and just, yeah. And we like walked around for a while. My wife's like, you want me to drive? I'm like, yep. Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact,
I do. Yep.
My wife's Steve McQueen behind the wheel. I'm all right, but she's who you want in a rainstorm.
No, man.
But
man.
I digress.
A lot of news. A lot of boxing news. We got Triple G, Gennady Golovkin, who finally signed with DAZN. So that's some big news there. Also, we're going to talk about. Oh wow. I don't know if you guys were able to hear that. Also, we're going to talk about this past week in fights. And then we're also going to be talking a little bit about the upcoming IBF welterweight championship fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Mikey Garcia. I want to hear you guys' pick. You're obviously going to hear our breakdown of the fight. But another news, Paulie decided to come out of retirement. Did you hear about this? he decided to come out of retirement and said, hey, I'm going to join the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Now, if you're not familiar with that, I suggest you guys to go to YouTube and check it out. I was telling Gabriel, I've been watching it for like a year. And I got to tell you, it's some pretty good stuff. Now, you're not going to have like the most skillful guys. It's still like a little bit of a tough man competition deal. But there are some guys on there that are actually pretty skillful because they end up starting late in boxing. So they didn't get the full experience of the amateur pedigrees, which you kind of really need if you want to go pro. There's only a few that jumped. Go ahead.
When you say tough man, though, like, you know, people throw around that term, but like weren't like tough men, like these guys weren't really training, at least in the early days of Tough Man. Like they weren't really training for this event. Like it was more like spur of the moment, almost like the beginnings of UFC.
No, they were.
Although those guys were fighters. This seems like people train for bare knuckle, right? I mean, these guys aren't just dudes off the street.
No, these guys are just not no slouches. These guys actually know how to counter. They know how to move. That's why I said they are far better. I mean, these guys they're not going to be able to cross over right away and make a sudden impact. Okay, but I tell you what. In the boxing ring. They have the same rules, but I tell you what, when you watch their heavyweights or even like their cruisers, I don't think there's any cruisers if I don't remember correctly. I think there's heavyweights and then the middleweights and stuff. But if you watch them, far more advanced, skillful than like a Kimbo Slice. So if you're thinking tough man competition, Kimbo Slice, that's not where I'm going with. These guys actually are very competitive. There are some very competitive fights, very entertaining fights. So I was a little surprised that Paulie Malignaggi wanted to make that. Well, actually, I wasn't. And the reason is because he's been chasing Conor McGregor for the past 2-3 years after that sparring session they had between each other, and he got dropped and he got all, kind of butthurt about it because Conor and his team posted the video, which you can dispute it whether or not he did get dropped by left hand or if he tripped over Conor McGregor's leg. But I tell you what, if he was really looking to get a fight with Conor McGregor here, Gabriel, the only thing he really got to do is take a picture of him because Conor McGregor's in trouble right now. He apparently, reported by TMZ, was he took away a fan's phone and smashed it, destroyed it, because the guy was trying to take a photo shot of him. So, Paulie, if you're listening, that's all you really need to do. You don't have to go through the gruesome bare knuckle fighting championship. Just walk up to him like you're a fan and take a picture.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, how's he gonna? Isn't he kind of an older fighter? Like, why embark on a new?
I don't know. I mean, think about this. Okay, I understand that he's trying to entice Conor McGregor to jump on that side of the fence, okay? Leave the UFC world and leave the boxing world and just come to the bare knuckle. I think he believes, and he was telling the founder of the bare knuckle, promoter, Danny Fieldman, that he feels that he can bring a big crowd. And even Fieldman said, well, we needed a name from boxing so that fans would turn over. And I was just like, well, he's not really a name. I mean, here's the thing. He's got 36
Was Adrian
wins.
Broner not available?
I guess not. No. I think Adrian Broner would have probably done a little bit better in terms of promotion, promoting. I mean, Paulie can never have too much coffee in Malignaggi. He's got a good mouthpiece, but sometimes he just rambles way too much. And his record, I mean, if you look at his record in boxing, it's good, but his KO ratio is, he's got 7 KOs under 36 wins. He's been stopped. He has 8 losses. He's been stopped 5 times. And if you really look at mostly of all the big fights he's had in boxing, Gabriel, he's never really overcame the big significant win. His 2 biggest wins was against Juan Diaz back in 2009, and that was on the rematch. And then his second one was an over-the-hill Zab Judah in 2013. But everybody else, starting from 2006 against Miguel Cotto, he lost in a unanimous decision. Back with Ricky Hanna in 2008, he lost on a TKO. He lost to Amir Khan in 2010 on TKO. Split decision against Adrian Broner in 2013. Then with Shawn Porter in 2014, he got stopped by Porter. Then after that, he got stopped by Danny Garcia in 2015. And then the latest is against Sammy Eggington up in the OT Arena, Greenwich. I mean, I don't understand how he thinks he's going to hold up to bare knuckles. And they talk about hands. He says he has no concern about his hands. I'm not quite sure, that's entirely true. You should be a little bit concerned. And, he is fighting some younger guys. So I kind of anticipate he has, 2 fights under the deal. I kind of anticipate him getting stopped in that first fight. And that's unless, and that's because some of these guys they do recognize the name Malignaggi, and they're going to say, hey, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to beat this guy, and it'll probably be the highest pay to face a Paulie Malignaggi at their first event.
Yeah, I don't know much about that organization or their pay scale or anything, but I'm just looking at the fact that, he did get stopped against Eggington in March of 2017. It's been off. Here we are, March 2019. He's 39 years old. He was already showing signs, although, he put in a valiant effort against Broner, but that was 2013, all those other fights, I mean, Shawn Porter pretty much blew him out. He didn't really look, he was kind of crafty, but again, didn't look like himself against Danny Garcia.
No, legs look dead.
And then he was able to rattle off wins, but, against the Fiscas and Mascatiello and Bracero. But at the same time, isn't that around the time that he got with Memo? Am I wrong?
No,
what I'm curious
right.
is, here's a guy that's talked about anti-doping, and I'm a big proponent. I've talked about it for years and years and years, but he hasn't been about it for years and years and years. I'd like to know what he was doing in that time off that makes him feel refreshed enough to enter into a different combat sport where, there's going to be more damage because the gloves are smaller. Now, people argue, like training in smaller gloves and fighting in smaller gloves, you could place your knuckles and don't hurt your hands as much because it's less of a crapshoot. I don't know how you feel about that. I train in tiny gloves, like 4-ounce gloves, and have for years. I feel that's true, but I also don't have like brittle hands. Like I haven't broken my hands a bunch of times. There's a reason why he has 7 knockouts is because of those hands. So I'm just curious what the thinking is. I mean, is he going to just outpoint people? Is that what he's looking to do? Is that possible?
That's just it. Like I said, when part of your defense is you have 8-ounce, 10-ounce, or gloves. And you're able to catch and pair. I mean, it's a little bit more trickier. It's a little bit more. You got to be a little bit more accurate. Reflexes got to really be there. If you watch those fights, those matches, you tend to think that they're going to be a little bit more reserved in throwing their punches. But in reality, these guys are hungry. They didn't have that amateur pedigree. They didn't really have the fans already scouting them out, or a promoter having some belief in having the connections with networks and whatnot, right? So these guys are really trying to put themselves out there. They're kind of saying it's a young sport, but in reality it isn't. It's been around for hundreds of years, that type of style. It's been underground. But they're trying to get it as a trend now to be more being able to have more access to it, because right now it's on pay-per-view. So it's really difficult for any fan, casual or hardcore, to tune in. You can only catch them on YouTube, and that's when I've been catching them on. The Mexico versus USA was really good. There was a couple other bouts, even females were on there, that you can go back and you could sit there and you could say, these guys got some skills. There's some skills there, but, like I said, if you put the contenders, that were in that series against those guys, the majority of those guys in the Contenders TV reality series is they're going to probably beat the majority of the guys in the bare knuckle at this moment. I could be wrong, but because it is getting this traction, and when it starts getting this traction and there's money to be made, and like I said, if it's starting to get this buzz, you could see a strong possibility that the pool for UFC or MMA or anything out there could start kind of getting shallow, because people are making the jump to something that might be more lucrative, because they could see themselves with a big future in that. If the bare knuckles, as Fieldman said, that they are in talks with a network to now finally televise it here in the States. So that's still to be seen. We don't know.
Huh. Well, that's about as much as I want to think about Paulie Malignaggi.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely.
I'm just curious, if Mr. Clean Sport's going to come to another sport and do some drug testing, or if there's, once again, there's not enough money for it. There'll be some other reason. Well, they don't do it in that league, or there'll be some reason not to do drug testing at age 39 after 2 years off. Maybe I'm just really curious, about that. Maybe he didn't think about drug testing because, it was a last minute thing. I always just think fighter,
He's chasing the dragon, man. That's what he's doing. He's really obsessed with that Conor McGregor fight, and I think when me and you were talking about it early this morning, and it was so true what you said. That fight, it's definitely not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen, and it's definitely not going to happen at the bare knuckle because they probably, unfortunately,
they don't have the money.
They don't have the money. They wouldn't be able to afford them. So the traction that they have now, it's good right now. What the notice that they're getting right now because of the announcement of Paulie Malignaggi, it's pretty good, but it's not one of those where you're going to see fans and myself or you that we're going to have a curiosity. That's about it. We're probably going to watch it once with him in it, but it's not going to be one of these things where like, okay, this is it. This is the jump now. You're not going to hear, bare knuckles is going to kill boxing. That type of a trend that's going to happen from it. I don't think so. I could be wrong. No. I don't think so. Yeah.
I highly doubt that. I mean, as much as boxing is like, exploding right now, it's a boom time for fighters. I don't have any of my casual sports fan friends asking me about the fights. It hasn't, you know what I mean? It's not caught on as a sensation. So, I don't see bare knuckle doing that either.
No. Like I said. Anyways, we're going to be patching in some listeners in a short bit here. We're going to actually go over this past weekend fights, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Spence and Garcia. Gabriel, you want to do the introduction to last week's fights?
Was it really that exciting last week? We had, Porter Ugas. I thought it was a draw. It was not. It was like two guys that just were like, no, you lead. No, you lead. No, I want you to lead. Let's crash into each other. Ugas had some nice stuff going on with his body work, but the jab wasn't consistent enough. Porter is just like, he doesn't really quite know what he's supposed to be, I think, and so he gets kind of stuck. It's not a consistent game plan.
I think he forgot who he was supposed to be, to tell you the truth. I mean, he's known as a mauler. He's like a little pet bull. Once he grabs, he doesn't let go. And this time around, I don't know what him and his dad were thinking, but it looked like they decided to adopt Ugas' style, which was be the counterpuncher. They waited a lot. Like you said, neither one of them wanted to lead, but I expected that with Ugas, not with Porter. I expected Porter to try to go forward, try to, be the little muscle that he has been in the past when he did it with Thurman, did it with Garcia, and when he did it with Malignaggi, did it with a lot of folks. I didn't see that from him. I don't know. It's because maybe something, maybe they're looking at longevity and they kind of figured, that style's not going to keep us going. We need to change it up a little bit. Or they were thinking Ugas is just that good of a counterpuncher, and we couldn't fall into a trap and get outboxed like they get against Cal Brook.
Well, that could be a third option. And that, it's going to be hard for Shawn to figure out who he is with somebody constantly harping on him every second of every sparring session or every training session. There's some point where I think a trainer or a teacher needs to let the student absorb all the lessons and kind of find himself within that. And, Shawn's a two-time champion. They certainly navigated the politics part of it and who to be with and how to get to those places. And, in those moments where it was, on him to defend the title or to get the title, he shined, not so much in the Brook fight, but here, but I just kind of wonder about that, that with Kenny, always on him. The way I've watched that in person, that dynamic between them, and just wondered if, like, at some point, do you mature past that and go, this is as far as I can go with this style? Like, how do I even, I don't know. It was kind of a weird moment in the fight where I thought Kenny should have been on Shawn to, like, get things going, but, like, Shawn was like, yes, sir, I hear you. It was kind of like this weird moment.
It was weird, man. It was weird,
Right? And it just made me think of that. I'm like, is this as far as they've gone? Like, is this as far as they can go? I mean, they got the win. I didn't think they won, and I certainly didn't think they won by 8-4, which was on one of the cards. But like I said, they mastered the politics part of it. Yeah, that was kind of grim. But, I just thought the fight was pretty forgettable. I slept like a baby that night. The card overall, I don't know. What'd you think?
I think the card overall, everything, it was just like I was in cruise control, to tell you the truth. I was falling out of the fight, doing other things, going back. I paid attention to the, Porter and Ugas, but I just, like I said, I even said it on Twitter. I was like, but neither one of them really stole the show. Neither one of them really showed me that they wanted it more. And the challenger should have went for it. Should have saw the urgency. He should have understood that Porter was not going to go after him, that he needed to be the initiative, and he didn't do it. So I'm not upset that Porter got the win. I thought it was a draw, just like you, and I think a lot of folks out there that watched that on Saturday night, they thought it was a draw. But I'm not upset that they gave it to Porter, because to me, you got to go out there and it got to be convincing, and it just wasn't convincing for me to go, oh, well, Porter lost this fight.
Yeah, I didn't feel he lost. I felt like a draw would have been more fair, just because I felt like, I just didn't feel either guy took the whole fight, but there were moments where one guy was in control and the other guy was in control, and I felt like Ugas was making Porter fight his fight a little bit more, and I did think that there was a knockdown late in the fight that wasn't called.
Right.
And so, yeah, I just thought that, I don't know, I was more excited about what Ugas was doing and kind of nullifying Porter into these moments where he was just moving around, then he would kind of come forward and attack, and he'd land some stuff, but I thought it was Ugas who landed the better shots. I mean, but it was like few and far between. It wasn't, like you said, he didn't seize the title. I'm not a big, you got to take it from the champion, but for me, it was not good enough for him to be circling the champion and going, well, he's not doing anything, so it must be because I'm so great, Well,
to me, I agree with you. I had the sense that he was like, well, I have it in the bag, and I'm done just enough so that it can sway my way. And, I'm sitting there going, well, you see the champion working to try to still get that win a bit, And if I'm sitting back and I'm a judge, I'm going to kind of go, well, who really wants it more, or who wants to retain it more? It was just really weird. I mean, like I said, it was almost as if none of them, like, it was almost as if the first round they felt each other's punch and they decided to back off, and just kind of give you little spurts here and there. And nobody decided to really take a dive into the deep end. They wanted to be safe, and it wasn't. It just turned out to be a recipe of being a very terrible fight, rather than a fight that a lot of us were hoping that we were going to get. Either an upset or some leather being exchanged. Porter has never been the most watchable fighter. A lot of fans have complained about him. I've actually enjoyed Porter, but I didn't see Shawn that night. I just didn't see him. Are you on mute, Gabriel?
Other fights? Did you?
Gotta have it once on leaving the ring.
Just once. Just once. Just once. I'm doing too many things behind the scenes. I don't want people to hear it on the clicks and things. Abel Ramos and Francisco Santana with a co-feature on the PBC on Fox. Did you check that one out? Did you see that fight?
I did see it. There was some good action in that. Yeah. It was.
Yeah, it was Ramos. He got dropped in the second round off a left hook. Got up. Charged back and it just really, it took the fight to Francisco Santana. But both guys fought like, they needed this win, which, Ramos is 24-3-2 with 18 KOs. Santana's 25-7-1 with 12 KOs. They need this win, So it was just nice to. That was just a good, solid fight.
That's how Porter and Ugas should have fought. You know what I mean? Like, they need this win. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you don't need the win because you haven't, you don't fight that often, and you get paid really well not to fight that often. Maybe those are the results. And maybe even, think about it. Shawn was like 148.8 at the weigh-in. He was, well over the welterweight limit. And had this performance that was a little bit off, a little bit listless. And you go, well, when you don't fight but once a year, you're playing Russian roulette with the weight, particularly as you get older. But also you're playing Russian roulette with the performance because you don't perform that often. Who's going to be good when you don't? If Tom Brady played one game a year, he probably wouldn't be as good. Well, maybe Tom Brady's a bad example, but because if Belichick had game for one game, it would probably be very good. But you get my point. You got to do things. Right. You got to be in rhythm. Speaking of, go ahead.
Just really quick, let me put my thought. Fighting is just not fighting. I think a lot of folks sometimes. Porter to me is a gym rat kind of kid. He goes in there, he trains, but when you're fighting once or twice a year, like you just mentioned, sometimes being repetitive get boring. Sometimes your body doesn't, live up to the excitement of fight night because it's in that training mode still, and I truly believe that fighters always need that little bit of a shock value. They need that umph behind them. They need that, certain challenge. And if you're sitting out and you're just going to the gym and you're just kind of waiting for your advisor, your management team to come along one day and say, hey, we got a fight for you 6 months from now, blah, blah, blah. You get excited for the moment, but then your body's still waiting. Your mind may be up for it, but your body may be tired out. There is a thing of overtraining sometimes, and it looks like Porter might have done that a bit.
Well, he didn't overtrain enough because he came in overweight. But it could be his body shutting down. You used to, I get to 8 pounds and I drop down or whatever, and all of a sudden it doesn't work. Just rounding out that card, Nigerian heavyweight prospect Efe Ajagba gets to 9-0 with 8 KOs with just a total beat down of 50-year-old Montoya. Coming off a KO loss, which he was fighting for like a vacant, WBC international heavyweight title, which you're like, it was like the second time he'd fought for it. You're like, why is this guy fighting for it? Ajagba just went right through him in 2 rounds. It was pretty brutal. He put him down twice in the first round, was unable to finish him off. But these kind of fights you have to start worrying about a guy. Do you need to see him start getting knocked down? Because Mansour quits on his stool after the second round. I don't need to see him just get totally obliterated. Sometimes you got to just put a guy out to pasture. But it is what it is. Juan Carlos Payano picked up a unanimous decision win, blowing out Damian Vasquez, and Imantas Staniosis stayed undefeated with an 8-round decision over Sammy Figueroa. But you wanted to talk about that other card, Dmitry Bivol over on DAZN on Saturday night. He just dominated Jr. He keeps his title. And Bivol, I think he looked very good. Didn't take any unnecessary shots until deep in the fight when he eats a right hand. And actually, he got buzzed a little bit early on too, like around the 5th round, I want to say, by the same kind of right hand. He was pretty lucky that it happened at the bell, and there was, he had to kind of reset a bit. Both times he was able to really handle it. He kind of just came in close the first time he got buzzed and tied up and just boxed and moved and really showed his class in that. But what do you think about it?
I feel for Smith, man. I really like Joe Smith Jr., but I feel for him. The one thing is that when you're just a part-time fighter and you don't have you're not necessarily given the right tools to get in there. Your power is pretty much is what got you to that point where you're at. He clipped. He doesn't have a jab. He doesn't know how to cut off the ring. He really doesn't know how to set up his power punch. And you could really get that sense of frustration. And I was kind of frustrated for him. I was like, man, I feel bad for him because these are things that should have been worked out in the gym. These are things that your trainer should have been working with you from the get-go. And, I think he's finding out about himself a bit here is that he can be easily outboxed. But the one thing that I like about him, I think a lot of fans love about him is his heart. But we've said this many times on Leaving the Ring. Heart doesn't always win fights. You have to have some type of skill to win the fight. And he really just couldn't find any kind of rhythm. He didn't have any jab. He didn't even know how to slow down Dmitry. I mean, he didn't want to go to the body. And then when he got him hurt, he didn't know how to, shorten up the ring to trap him. And most of the times when he did get him hurt, it was at the end of the round. But Dmitry came out and he was still a little, buzzed, especially that last time we got caught right behind the head. And, Smith, man, just couldn't get his claws all on him. So it's kind of sad. But I tell you what, I still like to see Smith again. I'm just not sure if he's going to want to see himself back into the ring.
Yeah, he's a very special, very specific fighter, I should say. Joe Smith Jr. But I also think that Bivol, he might leave a little bit to be desired in the firepower department. He may not have that eraser, and he may not have that kind of speed to set up a shot that catches you when you're not looking. But what he is very consistent, and he's got excellent footwork. He won that fight with and those moments of being hurt with his feet. He took shots that would have maybe knocked out other guys or knocked them down, and he was clearly very buzzed, but he was able to just kind of dance and move and no, I'm actually, so I don't have to text this. I'm actually hearing every time I talk, I hear myself again in an echo. It's really weird. I don't know why.
I don't hear, there's no echo. Yeah, go ahead.
It's going to drive me insane by the end of these 2 hours. But yeah, anyway, so about the, I love his footwork. I love, the thing that we celebrate kind of in Mikey Garcia, that ability to have the right range and to be kind of floating and moving and very economical. Dmitry Bivol does the same thing, I think.
I like him too. I see that the boxing Twitter is very harsh on him. They want a little more out of him. Here's the thing is that when you get spoiled with a Triple G, and I saw that, he's not going to be Triple G, and he's not, I'm like, guys, here's the thing though, is the sensational knockouts that Gennady Golovkin was getting, and I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for this, but was really against smaller guys, or guys that were kind of really out the door. Because when the Triple G finally stepped up, the guys that I was always told that he was going to knock out immediately once he put gloves on them, he didn't do it. Danny Jacobs and Canelo. So I like the performance from Dmitry. I think he understands that, look, I got power, but power's not going to always save me. And with Joe Smith Jr., that's a perfect example. He needed footwork. He needed a jab. He needed body work. He needed to know how to cut off the ring because the power didn't get him out of that fight, didn't get the win for that fight. So
and Joe
really
Smith has got an iron jaw. I mean, dude, he took some shots and some combinations of shots, and he just still was like, just
even
keep
body
on trucking,
shots,
man. Yeah. Even
body shots. I mean, the guy's a brick. I if anybody should go over to the bare knuckle fighting championship, it's him. I mean, wow. But yeah, what a performance from Dmitry Bivol. I like to see what he's going to do next. I think that fans need to kind of just calm down about him and not criticize him so much. Allow him to slowly, gradually just kind of – I don't know about you, but do you get the sense that he's still trying to figure out exactly where he wants to be in his boxing career?
Bivol?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's looking, or Bivol. I'm not exactly sure. He's. I think he's game to fight anybody. I think they're looking. They want a unification. I think there's big money in that. He's fighting in the same universe as Sergey Kovalev. I think that's a hell of a fight. But I think you're right that he understands. I'm trying to build a career, and when he gets to these big fights, he wants to be ready. And there's no shame in that. No, like I might go 12 rounds. This guy's got a dangerous right hand. He now learned, that it ain't over until you're sitting on your stool. Or you have your hand raised in victory. But he took a right hand. It was like at the last minute, he put his hands down. He was in kind of a no man's land, and boom, he gets hit. But I'd like to see him against anybody at the top. I think, Alexander Gavodnik, he might be better. But Kovalev also looks rejuvenated, looks in very good shape, looks ready, for a few more fights, and that guy's got real power, and still has some nice wheels, and he's got experience that the others don't quite have. So I think any sort of combination right now with Bivol, I think it's going to be one for us and one for them, for a lot of the fighters that are on any of the networks at this point. So what's next is maybe looking at his mandatory, which is Marcus Brown. I'm not sure when it's going to be due, though.
That's the question that I have. But going with Bivol and his performance tells me two things. One is that he can take a hit himself. He got rattled. He was able to recoup and gather himself back together. But the other thing is he didn't struggle with a Joe Smith Jr. Even after feeling the power, he stayed composed and he stuck to his game plan, and he didn't really, shy away. Because after you get buzzed that first time, you see some fighters tend to kind of hold back. They start to get a little bit more cautious. They're not really trying to be as fluent because they don't want to be there too long to be, hit back. The Volch, to me, showed me he's got a little bit of that fire in him where you got me, then I'm going to try to get you back. A little bit of that Eric Morales in him, hit me, I'm going to hit you back. So there was a little bit of everything that I saw with him and that I enjoyed and I liked. The one thing you could say, though, he was in complete control of every round. The only time he didn't was when he did get buzzed a little bit, but it was immediately he took over, and kind of erased the fact that he was buzzed, and even made Joe Smith be on the retreat.
Yeah, that's the mark of a real, special fighter, is a guy that he just didn't get rattled by it. He got hurt, especially the one where he got hit at the bell, and you could see him kind of stand there. But even that, it was like, I'm trying not to give away how hurt I really am. And you could see him kind of gather himself and just move back to the corner. He was pretty jacked up, But
he was walking back to the corner like he was walking back to that corner like he already had 6 beers and he was still going, going back to the bar and ordering another one.
Yeah, he's like Coach Larry trying to prove to the bartender that he's fine.
Yeah.
It was. I was very impressed by that. Those are the things you want to find out about a guy, And a Joe Smith Jr. is a perfect style for him. So it was a great matchup for Bivol. That guy's going to ask you some questions that hopefully you have the right answers for, and he did.
Yeah, he definitely did. Fight fans, you want to call in, you certainly can. 347-215-7598. Let's bring up this Saturday at the Arlington AT&T Stadium. Spence, 29 years old. Mikey Garcia, 31. Spence is a southpaw. Garcia is orthodox. Spence is 3.5 inches taller than Mikey Garcia. And let me see. A few guys tweeted out to me. Mr. Blue 323. He's got Spence, but he's really hoping Garcia shocks the world. Tommy Boxell saying I'm going with Garcia. I've actually had a few people on Leaving the Ring Gmail that truly are they're trying to convince me, Gabriel, that they believe Mikey Garcia can pull off the upset. They listened to our comeback show. And they were like, man, I liked everything you guys were saying, But am I drinking the Kool-Aid? Is the Kool-Aid too strong, too thick here to believe Mikey Garcia can pull this off? Well, you know what? It's a fight, and they're fighting for the IBF welterweight title. You know, and here's the one thing though, and I understand why some folks are kind of leaning with Mikey Garcia, and I said this before. Mikey is the pure boxer. He's the more, you know, to me, he's the more proven guy. You look at his resume, okay? Spence, biggest wins is, you know, in 2015, in April 2015, it was Sammy Vargas he got a TK over, okay? His other kind of significant win was against Phil LaGreco on a TKO, who Amir Khan KO'd in the first round. Then after that, in May of 2017, it was against Kell Brook. He got the KO, but, you know, some could argue that Brook went in there already as damaged goods, you know. And January of 2018, he went against Lamont Peterson, Gabriel, and Peterson's best win was back in December 2011, and that was against Amir Khan. You know, but then if you look over and you look at Mikey Garcia, which is very stacked and it's the better resume, but Sergey Lipnitz in March 3rd of 2018 really busted up and made Mikey Garcia look like he was in a scuffle there, you know. So I look at that, and then I'm looking at Spence, and I'm wondering if Lipnitz can do that, don't you think Spence can do far more worse?
Yeah, and you know, there's a few points there to be looked at. But yeah, I mean, Lipnitz was 5'7", 67-inch reach. You know, Mikey is as you point out, he's 5'6", 68-inch reach. He's got kind of long arms and kind of a wide chest. And he fights in that kind of side, you know, classic boxing style. He gets the most out of his reach. And, you know, Spence is 5'9.5", 72-inch reach. You know, he's a little bit of a different style than Lipnitz, but still, he's a bigger guy, naturally bigger guy. It's going to be, you know, a southpaw. Mikey's, you know, got a nice straight right hand, lead right hand, good left hook, and those are excellent weapons against a southpaw. And he has a good jab, which, you know, and you know, he's just one of the very best at finding his range naturally and keeping it, knowing how to get you on the end of his punches. He's also a very good defender of body shots, which is a big part of Errol Spence's game, body
yep.
shots. And I'm very curious to see how they're going to be on the inside. I know Errol's going to, you know, probably want a crowd come forward, you know, attack to the body and push Mikey back and kind of control him. But I'm curious because Mikey's no slouch on the inside. Go ahead.
You know what? When I think about the body shots, and I thought about it a lot this past week. Okay, what Spence does, and that's one of his best punches when he does go to the body. He likes to throw with that straight left of his, straight down. But if you look at the guys that he's done it, they've been kind of stationary. They're kind of dead on their legs, you know. They have older legs. He did it with Lamont. Lamont, you know, has kind of threw away his beginning trait of when he started his boxing career, which was he was known as a cutie boxer. And he converted into something different. He became very flat-footed, want to come forward and bang it out with you because he wanted to be entertaining. He didn't want to be labeled as a boring fighter. Mikey Garcia is not one of those guys that stands in front of you. He creates angles. He knows how to set up openings for his straight right. That's one thing that you point out. He has a beautiful right hand, and I love how intelligent he is. He never really kind of, you know, does it. He never really throws that right hand in one stance. He kind of creates different ways of dropping the straight right, you know, in between the gloves or around the gloves. That, to me, I wonder if he's able to do that early on, because I believe that Spence is probably going to try to go to the body because their thought is, well, he had to gain weight. He had to pack on pounds to move up, right? So the most logical thing is to go to that body, try to soften it up, and yeah, you know, as we say in boxing, let the air out of the tires. But if Mikey is able to still be, you know, very intelligent and able to pivot and move and not be so stationary, I tend to believe, Gabriel, that we're not going to see that many body shots from Spence.
Yeah, this fight is there a way this fight could be boring?
Yeah, it could be if one guy comes out and doesn't live up to the hype and the performance, which I think a lot of folks are leaning toward Mikey Garcia because of the weight difference and the height difference. It could be very dominant. It could be a short night for Mikey Garcia. It could have been a great attempt when bringing it up, but, come fight night, it's a fight. We're going to find out if the great little man can live up to the good big man. That's the only way I can see this could be boring, but if Mikey comes in shape and really can handle the 147 pounds that are, the added pounds that he's going to be getting, which is he's 135, so he's jumping 12 pounds up. And, how do they do it? Is it muscle? Is it fat? Is it a mixture of both? I think that's the more thing that I'm kind of concerned and wondering about. But style-wise, this should make up for a really fun fight.
I think so. I think they're going to match up well. I think there's bad blood. And I think within the PBC universe, it's never been clear who the next Floyd was, within that Heyman universe. They all came out in their suits for those initial, PBC promos. And, no one's really become the ruler of the roost. And, all of us have kind of, many of us, or people I respect, have treated Errol Spence like he's the class of the division because we all believe that he is. But he hasn't proved it. You aptly pointed out, I love the breakdown of his record. You could say you could do that about anybody, but this is Errol Spence, the truth. He's 29 years old, which is kind of trippy because when you look at his record, you're like, when were they planning to kick it into dangerous territory and start carving out greatness for the young man who's now almost 30? The Mirage, the curtain could definitely be pulled from Sparrow. But this is also the year Tito and Oscar were 29 when they faced each other, or 28 when they faced each other, something like that. This is also when you kind of in your prime. But he's fought 19 rounds since 2017. Kell Brook, Lamont Peterson, Carlos Ocampo. 1 round in a year, basically, or in 9 months.
But that's not the build-up to a prime, I mean, your prime.
And you look at Mikey, and he fought 39 rounds heading up into this fight from 2017. Zatichinin, which he went through in 3 rounds, super fast. I didn't expect that. I thought, the Zatichinin would give him a little bit of trouble, but he didn't at all. It looked like a monster at 135. Then he fought Adrian Broner, and I thought it was, very clear who the superior man was there. And the Lipinets fight, though, but Mikey got hit a bit. But the Lipinets fight, you're right, he got roughed up. The Robert Easter Jr. fight, not so much. He kind of found his foot again. But, again, that was a lightweight fight. And Robert Easter's a big guy that also doesn't fight that often. What do these guys all have in common? But
and doesn't fight tall.
And doesn't fight tall. But are those, let's even just say those 2 wins last year versus what Errol Spence did last year, Lamont Peterson and Carlos Ocampo, at least Lipinets was at his own weight and Robert Easter was at his weight. Those are much more quality wins. And so, based on that, it's hard to pick against Mikey Garcia in the experience department and in the battle-tested department. He's gone into other people's territory, or their divisions and taken their belts, and then unified. But this fight right here, it may just be a step too far, especially looking at the damage, the bleeding of the nose, just that he was able to be touched a little bit more. He was a little more sedentary. How much do you think the snack training is going to do for him in this fight? Now that he's training down at Victor Conte's place, I didn't watch any of it. I wasn't invited down to see any of it. I've seen the photos of him, super ripped. And I know what they do in terms of, it's oxygen modulation training. In that, they simulate high altitude or they kind of hyper-oxygenate you, kind of putting the wind behind your sails while doing sprints and different exercises, band work, all kinds of stuff. Plus Olympic, I think like Olympic powerlifting as well. They've added in the last year or two. They've been doing. So Mikey's getting kind of like Marquez was the first time. I say kind of and lean heavily on the kind of. But the first time that he went to like a strength and conditioning coach and stopped doing boxing training, but actually doing, something out of the box, as it were. And so his body's really responded because he's in the prime of his life. But will that translate into the ring? Will he be able to be? Is that going to translate into style, like a more active fighter? Is that going to? What does he need to do? Like, say he's super strong. What does he need to do to beat Errol Spence?
I think
is that all going to work together?
Right. That's what I'm saying. I agree. Is Snack from Victor Conte going to help him? Well, I think that's a debut for Victor as well. Because we don't really know. Because this, like I said, this is a major jump. I've always said this, that science is good, but with boxing, not only do you need science for your body, you need to have that IQ and that skill level. Well, Mikey has all that. So now the question is the science going to really help out Mikey move up to that division and be a force at the 147 weight limit? That's to be seen.
I would say this, from what I've seen over the years, and I've watched them. I watched that facility be built and watched a lot of the early stuff at the Undisputed gym when they just had like a couple hypoxicators. Now it's like a full gym. He gave himself the best chance, I think, physically by going to that place, because it's designed for fighters to maximize themselves, and they're not like weightlifting guys. They do some stuff. I mean, I've never really watched them do the Olympic powerlifting, so I can't really talk about that. But I've watched Remy and the track training and watched guys kind of a progression. This is Mikey's first camp there, and so I wonder, you're going to get a lot out of it, but you're not as much as if this is your third fight and you're ramping up to welterweight. You know what I mean? So I'm curious. Like, I remember interviewing Berto. He did his camp with Victor for Jan Zavik, that first camp. And it was like, I think it ended in the 6th round, but he said, like, it was like I had more energy than I realized, and it was kind of wild. It was like driving a sports car for like the first time and not quite knowing how it all worked. And so I'm curious to see how that'll be. But Mikey's one of the calmest, most relaxed fighters in the game, almost like James Toney like that out there. So I'm curious to see how it all translates. Is his motor going to allow him to throw more punches, and will having a better motor make him get over his inclination to not throw a lot of punches, but only throw them when, they're perfect?
That right there is a big because I'm on the fence, and honestly, it just made me now. What you just said made me lean more towards picking Mikey Garcia, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the hardest thing to master in boxing is being very calm, collective. Okay, and if the more calm you are, the more you're going to be able to see what's coming at you. Yeah, we got a bunch of callers. We'll let them in right now. I'm just going to say my final thought, and we're going to patch in some fight fans here on Leaving the Ring. Fight fans, you want to call in 347-215-7598. Mikey, to me, is going to be the more calmer guy coming into the fight, even though this is a big challenge and this is a big fight. First pay-per-view he's going to be on that he's headlining. But and what I'm thinking and how I'm looking at is the one that has the more pressure is going to be Spence Jr. Why? Because he's going to be facing a smaller guy, but who has more ring IQ than him, who has more of a better resume, proven resume than he does. I think the pressure's on him and how well he looks and how explosive and how dominant he's supposed to look and be on Saturday night. So who comes in with more of the nerves behind them? I would have to lean that Spence does. And who's coming in going, well, if I get beat, I got beaten by a better big welterweight guy where this is not a division I belong in. I'm going to have to say that Mikey goes in with more of a clear thought process and game plan than then Spence is going to go in. I think Spence can actually be overly confident and try to go out there thinking he's going to blast him out of there, or he can overthink the match and have a game plan that's not going to work for him, where he all of a sudden doesn't be himself. He doesn't come out being Spence Jr. Anyway, fight fans, you want to call in? Go ahead.
I have to rebut that. That's really a great point. I just think it's this is the moment. We're going to find out if he's a star. He's at home. It's harder to defend than it is to come in and attack. There's going to be a lot of Mexican fight fans there who are going to go crazy for Mikey coming in there and taking the title from the Texan Errol Spence Jr. Can you defend at home? Can you deal with all the people trying to get tickets and get at you? It's a lot easier to come with your tiny team and invade, So we're going to find out, man.
Yeah, we definitely are. Fight fans, you want to call in 347-215-7598 here on Leave the Ring with myself, Dave Duenez, and Mr. Gabriel Montoya. Gabriel, let's patch in the first caller here on Leave the Ring.
All right, then. You haven't even seen what I signed in as yet.
I did.
787, you're live on Leave It in the Ring. You've been waiting a long time. Thank you.
Yo, what up, Dave? What up, Gabe?
Hey, what's up? Who is this?
It's Rob from Puerto Rico.
Hey,
Rob,
Rob.
what's
how you
up,
doing?
brother? How you been, man?
Viva Puerto Rico.
Been good. Just decided to call in after a long time. But
appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, I hear you guys talking about Errol Spence and Mikey. I haven't been following all of boxing, but I've been keeping my eye on this fight in particular because it's prime versus prime, and you don't get that too often these days.
Right.
I think the chips are kind of lined up in Mikey's favor here. I think Mikey's better at setting traps, and the fight's not going to start inside the pocket. I think Spence is going to have to get there a lot, and I don't think Mikey's going to stand still. But one thing I've noticed about Spence that's changed recently is his attitude. There's been like 4 or 5 videos of him at events drunk, and I don't know, he's acting weird lately. I think it's Terrence Crawford getting to him. I think Terrence Crawford is taking a lot of attention from Errol Spence's career, and I think Errol Spence might have his sights set on Terrence Crawford more than this fight. He's underestimating Mikey a lot. Every time he talks about him, all he brings up is the size difference. And I don't think that the size is going to be enough to win the fight because I don't think that the fight is primarily going to take place on the inside a lot. So I'm leaning towards Mikey. I'm more worried about bad judging. If this fight is taking place in Texas, I'm more worried about bad judging, but I'm leaning towards Mikey a lot right now.
Good point, man. Yeah, 2 really good points. There being in Texas, for one. 2 is the height difference. I'm starting to believe it isn't going to make a big difference because if you look at when Spence does jab to the body, he squats and he reaches. And when you talk about how Mikey sets up traps, that's going to be perfect pitch. That's perfect picture for him. It's going to be an open area for him to drop his right hand, is move away from the body shot and drop that right hand. That's why I kind of believe that it's going to really change the body punching output that Spence likes to put out there. I think that's going to be taken away if the Mikey Garcia we've seen at 135 comes in and is comfortable at a heavier weight.
Yeah. I think. I also think Mikey right now, being that he's in his prime, being that he's he's just young and he has a lot of confidence. He's poised, as Gabriel stated earlier. I think he's definitely going to be able to perform better at pinpointing and choosing when to exchange than Kell Brook did. I think Kell Brook got caught up in the moment and let a good opportunity to win in that fight leave. I don't think that's going to happen with Mikey. I think Mikey's going to carry more power than Kell Brook did, and I think he's just going to choose when to exchange better. But there's a lot of questions about Mikey. Is he going to have the heart if that fight gets ugly? We don't know. So that's the only question I have going into the fight.
Those are good points. I mean, I tend to think the way I know Victor approaches things, he's all involved at this point with how he's going to make weight, what that's going to be like, they're going to have Mikey optimized on the night of the fight. You know, they do this whole supplementation thing. This is where Victor started in sports, at least in sports quote unquote medicine. In the supplementation business was this whole, taking the athlete's blood, breaking it down, and finding out what they needed, and kind of designing a supplementation program specifically for that person. But then they also have these kind of fight night packs that they take that are all specifically timed to kind of hit you, I guess, in the fight and carry your energy over. I don't know how the Texas Commission will, they've been doing it for all his fighters. I imagine it's fine with them, and they register all this stuff. But Mikey has all that behind him, and just kind of like the Victor is like all about like a positive vibe. He's got this guy that's basically just treating him like a gladiator. He's got a running coach who also does his weights. They do, deep tissue massage, and then they've got this crazy, oxygen training gym where they're doing all these sprints and probably boxing in high altitude and shit. It's really something. I think Mikey's got the wind at his back right now. It's Errol Spence. Yeah, all the pressure's on him because he's supposed to win on top of it. But I really like your breakdown of the fighting styles, and that Mikey's going to make the most of those exchanges, because he does have kind of the shorter punches in a sense. So he's more set up for that kind of a fight. Quick exchanges, tie up, and break up. But we'll see. I'm still leaning towards Spence because he's just a bigger guy, the natural heavyweight, and I like southpaws. And he's used to fighting righties, whereas Mikey's got to adjust.
Well, let me ask you this,
Yeah.
Rob. Are you buying the pay-per-view, or where are you going to watch it at?
Yeah, I'm gonna pay for entry at a bar, so I'm gonna kind of pay, but I'm not gonna buy the pay-per-view directly.
Right.
Just gonna go to a bar, have a few drinks.
Yeah, I'm going to the movie
Oh
theater.
yeah, that's right, guys. You guys are in the States, yeah.
Yeah, man. I think that's the way
over
to
here,
go, too.
over here in the island, I don't think they're gonna have it in theaters, but I could check. I haven't even looked at that yet. But
Yeah,
I was actually going to ask you guys really quick.
Sure.
Would you guys agree that Terrence Crawford would be a favorite going into the fight against Errol?
I agree. I would have to say yes.
Because if so, from a perspective of him being the favorite, if so, by how much? Because let's say Mikey wins. Let's say he gets the upset, he wins. How much of an underdog would Mikey then be going into a fight against Terrence? Does that kind of erase people's doubts of Mikey at welterweight or at light welterweight? Where does Spence's size carry him?
If he beats Spence, then you can say he can compete at welterweight. Then you kind of go, he might be like a Pacquiao, that he's kind of it depends on what he comes in on the night. I'm wondering if he's going to come in all the way at 47, or if he's going to be at 46, 45.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's his optimum? And he's just a guy fighting at his optimum weight, not having to cut all that much. But I was reading, kind of looking through stuff, and one report said that Mikey said he walked around like 58, 60, but that I think it was Robert Garcia said that, and then Mikey said something lighter, like 152. So you don't even really know what he's going to be till the night. But I don't know who I'd favor. Like right now, I would lean towards Errol Spence more as welterweight than I do Terrence Crawford. But I think he's had probably better wins at the weight than Terrence Crawford has. Jeff Horn, Jose Benavidez Jr. But if Spence loses, then that changes. But if Spence beats Mikey Garcia, I don't know. Does it change his stock at welterweight to beat a lightweight? Depends on how he does it.
The thing with Crawford, though, is that I think with Crawford, why I would favor him over Spence is because he's shown us a little bit more of his face and how he fights. He can switch from orthodox to a lefty. He can box. He can brawl. With Spence, for me, is still a guy that we're still trying to find out. Like you said, 29 years old. The fights that he has under his belt is really not the fights that you would get and to get to your prime. There's got to be a little bit more. With Crawford, for me, is Top Rank is notorious is they build them up slowly and they just start, slowly moving the puzzle where they need to be. And Crawford has shown me a little bit more dimensions to his fight game than Spence at the moment.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's all I have, man. So,
well, it's good talking to you, bro. It's
man.
been a long time, man. Yeah, it's been a long time that we've spoken to you, brother.
Yeah, man. I'll definitely call in more often. You guys are having a good show. I like what you guys are saying. I like the points you're making on these fights, and I'll keep listening in to see what the other fans have to say.
All right, Tim.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Peace.
Fight fans, you want to call in 347-215-7598 here on Leaving the Ring. Gabriel, let's patch in the next caller here.
510. You're live on Leave It in the Ring.
Hey, Gabe. Hey, Dave. This is over here in Richmond. How you guys doing?
I'm doing all right, man. How you doing? It's a beautiful day in the Bay.
Man. Oh, I know. Dude, finally the rain's gone, man. No more rain for at least a week, I heard. It's awesome.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, dude, I work in construction. Dude, I'm outdoors all the time, man. It's killing me.
Yeah,
But,
it's like we need it, but really, who needs it anymore? I want it to be over. The rain was brutal here, particularly where I live. It's like, yeah, it was pretty grim. But yeah, man, what's on your mind?
The last quarter was excellent. I made a lot of great points, in Mikey's favor, and so have you guys, right? But I just feel like Mikey, he's not doesn't have enough power for a welterweight, and I don't think he's quite athletic enough to avoid Spence the whole fight. So, and I think Spence has a bit more of a killer instinct. He's not going to let Mikey slide. He's going to be going for the knockout. I got Spence by knockout, 10th round stoppage maybe. I think he's just going to break down Mikey after a while. I think Mikey will outbox him early on, but the difference in power and athleticism is going to tell the final tale. Mikey is the better boxer, but this they have weight classes for a reason. And
this is a tough fight. This is a tough fight to pick, man, because you're making some great points. Because Spence can go in there and afford to lose rounds. What he can't afford to do is not land the bigger shots to physically break down the supposed smaller man moving up. He's got to land the bigger shots. He's got to land the welterweight shots. So in Spence's favor, you got to think like, hey, it's okay when it happens fight night. It's okay if he's losing, seconds and minutes of rounds, but it's the 1, 2, or 3 big shots. To me, that's what's gonna lead to the next question. Can Mikey Garcia stand up long enough to get to the 12th round if he's getting hit cleanly by an athletic? And Spence has got some really good speed. He's got good hand coordination. So it's one of those, man, that to me it's just like, God, it's a hard one to pick. Like I said, I'm on the fence. I was starting to lean with Garcia, but now I'm pulling back on the middle of the fence again, man.
I'll say this much, man. When they first announced this fight, right, it would seem like it was only Mikey that wanted it. I sure as hell didn't want it. I still kind of don't want it, right? But just the fact that people are curious and there's actual legitimate arguments on both sides, I'm actually excited to watch the fight this weekend now, to be honest. I have my feelings towards the fight, but at the same time, I want to watch it now, man. I'm going to go to the movie theater. I'm going to check it out. I'm going to enjoy it, and I'll be pulling for Mikey. I'm not anti-Mikey at all. I'm not anti-Spence either, He's been a good champion too. But I just, I hope they see a good fight this weekend, and we'll see what happens. I just think, every time that somebody's moved up in weight, a couple weight classes, they've always been fighters that could beat the other guy to the punch, like a Pacquiao or a Mosley, right? They're athletic to make the other guy miss. And I just don't think Garcia fits either of those bills quite, where he's quick enough to beat the guy to the punch and athletic enough to make the other guy miss enough, right? 'Cause he's going to have to make Spence miss a lot to win this fight. It can't just be all on offense, right, where he's beating him to the punch. He don't have to avoid the punishment, Like you were saying earlier, man, if he doesn't avoid the punishment for all 12 rounds, he can get knocked out in the 10th or 11th round, even though he was winning the fight in the scorecard, because he was outboxing him. But
here's a food for thought, though. Here's a food for thought, though, in this fight. let me ask you, who do you believe has the more educated jab? Is it
Mikey.
Spence? Mikey, right? And if you go back and you listen to any trainer, from Emmanuel Stewart to Freddie Roach and all them, they will all tell you an educated jab slows down the speedster. You know that saying, speed kills everything? It does, but if you have a jab to stop that momentum, it slows down a lot of things. And it's going to be really up to Spence and see if he can adjust to Mikey's, educated jab. Is he going to jab underneath his jab? Is he going to throw over his jab? Is he going to slow him down? Is he going to even respect that jab? I think that's what makes this fight so interesting, and that's why so many fight fans are intrigued and so many fight fans are talking about it. The build-up to this fight is the more and more you think about it, the more and more we play around with it in our heads, the more and more we keep coming back to the same question: is shit. This is going to be one of those. It can go off of experience or it can go off with youth. Which one do you like?
Yeah. Well,
and it's also come down to the punch. Can Mikey hit Errol Spence hard enough? Can he hit him at all? But can he hit him hard enough to get his respect right off the bat?
Right.
And
keep him humble.
The thing is, like, people are looking at the size difference and going, God, Mikey is so much shorter. That's also going to make it really hard for him to get hit. He's going to be ducking under Errol a lot. I think you're going to see a lot of situations where Mikey's ducking under and Errol kind of overshoots and they come together and it's a tie-up. It's going to be a little awkward. Errol's going to have to come up from underneath. He's going to have to earn those body shots. Mikey's going to be able to make himself small. They're not stupid over there. Rob Garcia is a smart boxer, ex-champion, and now a very seasoned trainer, and they, and then the father as well. I mean, this is the big fight probably of the Garcia family's career, maybe the Trinidad fight, right, for Vargas, but this, if Cowboy Stadium didn't get much bigger. This is for all the marbles. They're going to bring it. It's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, don't be surprised too if Mikey Garcia is the body puncher in this fight. And if there is going to be a punch to drop Mikey Garcia, because Mikey may take advantage of his height, I'm going to have to go with Spence Jr.'s. He's going to have to adapt to an uppercut. That would be the punch to drop Mikey Garcia, or to back him off.
Yeah.
Are you guys excited about the undercard at all with Benavidez or Neri? Any of those fights? Are any of those fights interesting to you?
I always like seeing Louis Neri. It's unfortunate that positive drug results also like seeing Louis Neri. But I always like that guy's style. And against McJoe, why did they make this? This is a weird name and it's so hard to say. McJoe Arroyo. It's going to be a good fight. The Arroyos are, an exciting group of fighters, but they're a family of fighters. Chris Arreola versus Jean-Pierre Augustin as well. And Charles Martin versus Gregory Corbin. Oh, that's on Fox 1. That's kind of like, a slider of a fight. No, I'm not that excited about the undercard. I'm excited that it's cool that I can miss it and just get to the main event. Maybe at the theater or something. I don't know. Where are you seeing the fight, Dave? Are you seeing it I'm watching it at the Riverbank Galaxy movie theaters. That's where I've been going for. I went to go see the Wilder and Fury, Canelo and Gennady Golovkin, both fights. Yeah, man, I really enjoy going to the movie theaters. I mentioned this before. They kind of do it like you're at the ballpark game. Popcorn, beer, sodas. And the one thing that I truly love is that the people that show up for the fight, well, they're actual fight fans, So You're not into that real awkward conversation where the guy goes, yeah, man, I'm a big boxing fan. Mike Tyson. Yeah, dude, Mike Tyson hasn't fought in how many goddamn decades now,
everybody out there is really in tune to what's going on and who they're picking and what they think of the fight. Last time I was there for the Wilder and Fury, there was a couple of listeners that saw that I tweeted it, and they showed up, and, man, I had a blast. I had a great time. So hopefully, if you guys are still around, if anybody's out there in the 209 area in Modesto or anywhere else in the valley, and you want to see the fight, I'm going to be at the Galaxy Riverbank movie theater watching Garcia and Spence.
I was thinking coming up there hanging out with you too, Dave, but that's like an hour drive, dude. I want to drink, man. I don't want to get DUI on the way back, man. You know, I was thinking about coming out there hanging out. I'm going to watch at the Emeryville movie theater probably, you know, watch the Uber over here, you know, and watch that. Like you said, man, it's a good crowd, dude. It's kind of like, it's about as close as you get to going to a fight without going to a fight. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
At the actual fight.
It's at Emeryville?
Yeah, Emeryville will have it. Yep.
Like whereabouts? Like, what else is around it? So I'm trying to get my bearings. I've probably driven through where this is.
You know, like as soon as you get off the bridge, you know, the IKEA right there? The IKEA there, as you get off the bridge? In that area right there is like a shopping center. You know?
Oh, I see that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about because I was at Kia like a month ago. Yeah,
I'm talking about the Bay Area Bridge. Yeah, the Bay Bridge.
Yeah, as soon as you get off the bridge, man, it's right there. It's on the left-hand side.
Sweet. Oh, I can totally.
That's not that far from you, Gabriel.
From the freeway.
Not at all. Yeah. Not at all. I mean, you know, on a Saturday night that could be grim, but going out probably isn't as bad as coming in. But yeah, I might do that. This is the kind of fight, you know, and I've been wanting to go to the theater. This is the kind of fight you want to see on the big screen, not like chilling, you know, alone at your house.
It's a nice spot, man. They got a bar and everything, man. It's a nice spot, man. Yeah,
the atmosphere is it's electric. I love it. I got to tell you, it's electric. You know, everybody, even though the Wild and Fury was not that packed, it was like half the theater was packed. Okay, if that, but. Everybody there made it just that much more fun to watch. You know, you weren't shy getting up and screaming your head off and clapping and like, you know, everybody added to it. So it really felt like the only way I could describe it was I felt like I was at a fight party that we used to have in the 90s.
Did they turn the lights down, or did they leave the lights out?
Yeah, no, the lights are down, everything, yeah.
Oh, that's
and it's like perfect, like 4K, like the one in Emeryville. It's an IMAX theater, so it's huge, and it's in 4K, right, or like super high definition. Like after a few drinks, man, you feel like you're in the ring with them. Like you feel like you're standing inside the ring with them. Like it's awesome.
Do you have the recliners?
Awesome.
Do you guys? Is the recliners over there? No, we do.
No,
see, we have that, man. So
that's on like Donkey Kong. Yeah. I think I gotta check that out.
Yeah,
it is my birthday
man.
this month, so.
Oh, happy birthday, man! You know.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah, it's only $20 to get in too, dude. It's only $20 to get in, man. It's a lot cheaper than paying the $80 they want for you to, you know, get it online, right?
Yeah.
And like you were saying, David, right? Like I can go hang out with my homies, right, and watch the fights with them. But then you got a lot of random people. You got to kind of like find a spot to, you know, get a good spot for the TV. You're kind of crowded. You know, I just have a good time, man. You know, and I don't know. I enjoy it, man. I like going to the movie theater more than hanging out with my homies, man.
Because you know that the folks that are going to go to the movie theaters, they're paying to go see the fight. It's not like going to somebody's house that the host is kind of a fight fan or it could be a fight fan, but everybody else that he invited are not. You know, so they're not even really paying attention to the fight. And if they are, they're asking you about what's going on. And there's always that one jerk ass that goes, oh, you know, UFC's killing this, you know, you know what I mean? And then that takes away my time for me to defend my sport by saying, what are you talking about, bro? You know? So I really enjoy the movie theater. That to me is a place to go, and you're going to have a blast, you know? Oh,
they do it. There's one in San Francisco proper. I'm looking at it right now.
Market.
Yeah, on Market Street. I'm going to that. That's like 15 minutes from my house. That's yeah. All right.
Check it out. I think it's dope, man. I think it's my favorite way to watch a fight besides going to it, man. It's dope, man. I love it.
Get dressed like it's Vegas, you know. Put on a suit, put on the furs. The whole thing. Bring a flask. Yeah, if they're turning out the lights, you can bring a flask, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know about the theater.
I'll tell you this, that as soon as I'm done with this whole podcast studio here, because I plan to have about 4 TVs, and have a surround system in here. As soon as I get that done, it should be done before the Canelo and Danny Jacobs. So as soon as it is, I'm going to tweet out the invite for anybody that lives around here that wants to come down, and we can barbecue and have our brewskis here, and you can crash here at the pad. You don't have to leave, and we'll be able to watch the fights, man, like if we're at the movie theater.
That'd be cool, man. Maybe I'll get a normal there when just come hang out with you, watch the fights, man. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, Gabriel, you come down to the house with my 72-inch, so.
Dave is very into his entertainment. That's what I'll say. He really...
He's got
a deep connection
voice,
with his. Yeah, he's not playing when he's playing. You know what I mean?
Well, I appreciate you guys taking my phone call. I know you guys got other people on the line, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. Always appreciate the call, man.
Bye.
Stay
Bye-bye.
free.
You too, man.
Fight fans, you want to call in 347-215-7598 here on Leaving the Ring. Let's talk a little bit about Triple G. What are your thoughts about the DAZN and Gennady Golovkin finally joining forces? You know what sucks, man, is that the focus should have been about Gennady and the possibilities of the opponents that are going to be, brought up. But I don't know about you, but I saw more people focus on where's Tom Lawfer? Where's Tom Lawfer? And I was just like, why are we so focused on Tom Lawfer? Why is he the main talk of everybody? I'm not really getting that.
And and Tom tweeted today, it's good that Chris Mannix will be hosting the Triple G media event, officially announcing the DAZN deal today. Chris said Triple G winning the rematch with Canelo, as did the overwhelming majority of fans and ringside media. Big chant. Tom, it's really weird that people are that we're trying to knock the guy down. He built up a fighter. He did, in this fractured ass sport that, today I was involved in sort of a thread about about building a boxing league, which is something that, Kurt Emhoff really likes. In this fractured, free-for-all, capitalism on steroids sport called boxing, Tom Loeffler was able to take Gennady Golovkin, nobody had heard of. All the people that are naysaying him now didn't know who he was when he was an amateur, or a guy that was in Sauerland's stable, kind of hiding behind Felix Sturm, or trying to get at him and not able to. They didn't care about him when he was fighting in Panama, against Kasim Uma. But over here they're like, oh, he's just a product. I don't understand how hard it is to get to where he was at his age. And to fight in that exciting style. The Triple G's given us the best years of his life. I think it's great he's able to work that out. And, it's clear that he does love boxing and wants to be an ambassador for his country through boxing. And he does Triple G promotions. I don't think it's a matter of cutting Tom out. It's just kind of expanding himself. And, Tom did the same thing, I think, you could say with K2 promotions, then eventually jettisoned and became 360 promotions for himself, because the Klitschko brothers doing their own thing. That they are K2. I bet Tom will be an integral part of the whole thing. And the reports of his demise, I just think it's weird. Everybody wants to jump on that, and we are in the age of sources. Tell me this. Steve's always been that guy, but I've always known. Meaning Steve Kim, but I've always known Steve, and I followed the same practice. When I tweet something, it's because I know it to be true.
Right.
It's verified. Maybe you even check it with a couple people, but not speaking out of turn. You're sharing information that can be verified, and that's not gonna well, sometimes it does damage, but I don't know. I just this whole thing is weird. It just seems strange that people want Tom. It's almost like they want Tom to be out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's almost like
it's being covered.
From being the people's promoter, it's all of a sudden it's hang 'em. let's hang them, It's really weird. But let's pass it to fight fans here if they still want to talk about Mikey and Spence. I'm curious about some of the callers of who their pick is for this Saturday and where they're going to watch the fight at.
209. You've been waiting longer. I will get to you 917. 209. You're live on the evening.
Hey guys, how you doing?
That Red Bull that's kind of hitting me, so I'm doing pretty good. I took a Red Bull at the top of the hour, and I'm flying. So I've been like about 6 months since I've had one. I randomly bought one the other day, like on an impulse, and I left it in my bag, didn't drink it, and then I was kind of tired before the show. I was like, I'll save it for the top of the hour. And yeah, I'm like kind of a crackhead. I'm like standing. I can't even sit in my seat. So, anyways, how you doing? What do you think about Spence versus Garcia?
Well, honestly, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I just don't see Errol Spence losing. I don't know. I personally, I think if Errol Spence loses, I think that'll put a big damper on the Crawford Spence. So I wouldn't be surprised if he walks away with a decision. And plus, what he did to Cal Brook, I mean, I'm not expecting anything less. I know Mikey Garcia is good, but that's like 2 weight classes. That's like Canelo moving up to face the Crusher or Bivol or somebody of that size. I mean, that size difference. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Mikey Garcia fan, and I would like to see a Mikey Garcia versus Pacquiao pay-per-view. I'd buy it in a heartbeat. But
yeah, I mean, like Triple G broke Brooks like one orbital bone, and Spence broke the other one at like a lower weight class. Like you would, that should kind of tell us something. Like a guy jumped 2 weight classes, gets his eye broke, and then but that also it should say something about Errol Spence's power that he was able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, unless Cal Brook got brittle bones. But I just don't see it, But
I think we would have figured that out before then, Like I think these guys just really hit that hard. But also that there's weight classes for a reason,
Exactly. And he's moving up 2 weight classes. Wow, that's because I heard you guys talk about it, as I was driving home, and I'm thinking, wow, 160. I mean, like that's like 160 moving up to 175. That's like 168 moving up to a cruiserweight. I'm like, wow, that's what a difference. That really makes.
Yeah.
But hey.
But it's also like old school, It's the way they used to have to do it, 35 to 47. But it's also kind of misleading because he did fight at 40, and then he went back down. I think he's just a Pacquiao, he's just trying to fight at his natural weight at this point and really optimize himself. But how do you see the fight unfolding?
Honestly, I see it going back and forth. I don't think it's going to be a bar fight. I think Mikey's too smart for that. I see a strategic match. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes the distance because they really don't engage. But a while back, what's his name? Brandon Rios gave an interview on YouTube. I don't know to who it was, and they asked him who's the hardest person he got hit by, and he said Mikey Garcia. So I think Mikey got some power, and I wouldn't be surprised if he. I'm not saying that he's just going to stand back and try to counter. I think it's going to be for interesting fight. So interesting. I'm actually going to go see it at the movie theater. I'm not going to buy it, but
that's good.
I am going to see it at the movie theater, and but I don't know.
What part of town are you going?
Stockton.
Oh,
you guys see that in a double feature with Captain Marvel? Or no? Yeah.
It all depends on my lady. Hey, it all depends on my lady. Right now, she's game to watch the fight, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get there. She goes, no, baby, let's go see Captain Marvel instead. And I'm like, okay.
Maybe take her to a movie midweek, so you kind of put that in the bank, That sometimes works.
Or what you could do is what you could do is do a fake call, like you're calling the movie theater. Go, look, babe, I'm gonna order the tickets right now, and then go, you know what, Mija, they sold out, so we're gonna have to go to the fight after all. I tried my hardest, man.
They sold out, man. Sorry, I tried.
I'm sorry, mi amor. They sold out, but I'll buy you some extra popcorn con butter, no?
Yeah. Hey, for the fights this weekend, Bivol, I know you got caught, but dude, man, that guy has some good footwork. Yeah, ain't no way. Yeah, he has great footwork. That's one thing I took out of this fight. Ain't no way Joe Smith was going to catch him, man. I mean, I know he got him a couple of punches, but, I mean, man, he spent half the fight just chasing after him. That's great footwork. Great footwork.
You couldn't help it, though. You couldn't help it, though. And I think that's what kept me glued to the fight, was that you were hoping that he can land another big one. And do the upset special that everybody was hoping to get from the Porter and Ugas fight, But Bivol was just too good. He's just too good, man.
Yeah. Bivol was just too good. Porter, after that fight, I was at a quinceañera, and they had it on at the bar, and we were hanging out right where I was sitting at, and I was able to see the fight. Bits and pieces of the fight. With Porter, you're used to a certain style, a certain ugly style that he fights, and that's what I was kind of hoping for. But everybody in the world knows his style, and I guess you got to change it up. I get it. You're a champion, change it up. Keep your opponent off guard. But I was kind of hoping to see that style in him. But from what I saw, it kind of looked like he was trying to outbox him. Compared to what he did with Thurman, compared to what he did to everybody else. And he comes forward, he makes the fight ugly, he wrestles, but man, I was kind of hoping he'd do the same thing, but he just kind of tried to outbox the guy.
Yeah, so, I wanted to see him push Ugas' limit. I wanted to see if he could frustrate him. I wanted to see, we know that. Yeah, something, and it was like Porter didn't come out to play. He opted to stay in the house. He didn't want to come out in the rain.
Yeah, and one of the other things I want to mention about it is what you guys talked about earlier about how the people from the PBC fight maybe once a year, and this is part of the reason why I don't watch the PBC too much. Let's just say, for example, Errol Spence when he fought Cal Brook. Guy was on fire, hottest thing on boxing Twitter, and then 7 months down the road, guy still hasn't fought. Santa Cruz fights, does good. I mean, to the point, next fight 8 months down the road. I mean, if I watch these guys fight, and if I'm like glamoring them because they did such a good performance where I'm looking to buy their gear. I mean, I won't see them fight until another 8-9 months. So what's the point? That's one. I understand superstars fight twice a year, like Canelo, which I get it. My Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence Day, worth it. But these guys from PBC, it's like, like I see them more on Twitter, calling people out than I do actually in the ring. And
the difference is what you mentioned, like the Canelos of the world and the Gennady Golovkins of the world, is that they earned it. They earned the PBC. Yeah, you know what I mean. They earned the right because they were fighting so often, and they were taking certain challenges. These guys, it's almost like they forced it on us. Yeah. But it also kind of proves that. Maybe the boxing Twitter is not as strong as what we believe we are at one time. You know what I mean? We're not the influence, But hey,
makes for interesting, very interesting reading material. I swear, man. Boxing Twitter. Oh man. Gabe, today, one of my favorite tweets of the day was what you said about Gennady opponent, how it translates to Ricky, whatever the hell they got.
Rocky Fielding.
That was great, man. Oh, man,
I could be
great.
wrong.
Yeah.
But, we knew that's what it was going to be. It's going to be one for them, one for us. Hopefully we get Canelo, Triple G in September, and we can close the chapter on that. And that ultimately, like, a real fight breaks out between these guys, because it doesn't feel that sustained. Like, I want Morales-Barrera from these guys, or Barrera-Morales, depending on who you favor. That's what I want from these two guys. Not like nip and tuck. That's what I'm hoping we don't get with Garcia versus Spence. Just like a De La Hoya Trinidad. It's done and you feel like they didn't fight. I hope something it's more combustible there in Texas this weekend.
Well, I think Canelo Triple G is just gonna start off where they ended off at. I mean, them two they complement each other well. Their fighting styles. I mean, my God, the second fight. There's so much controversy over the second fight. Who won? This guy won, that guy won. I tried to watch it again. I tried to score it, and I was, halfway through the fight, I put my scorecard down, and I was like, this is a great fight. I mean, I just sat there and enjoyed the fight. These guys were like dumping. I mean, I was like, wow. I mean, why get caught up in this trying to score who won? It was just an excellent fight. And I hope those two guys do it again. Anyways, gentlemen, thank you very much. I have to cut this conversation short. I appreciate you guys taking my phone call.
No problem.
And I look forward to hearing you guys again next weekend.
All right, brother. Thank you for calling in, man.
All right, man. Take care.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye.
I'm going to go to 917. You're live on Leave It in the Ring.
Yeah, thanks, Gabe. How's it going,
Hey.
Dave? No.
Hey, what's going on, brother?
Not much, man. I was playing Mario Kart, and I was reminded about the show that you guys have on Mondays again. I got to get adjusted to talking boxing again on Mondays, but I'm happy to have you guys again on Monday nights. So three quick things I wanted to talk about. Have you guys discussed in detail, because I missed the first part of the show, the Ugas-Porter fight over the weekend? Who'd you guys have winning?
I had it a draw.
You had it a draw?
I was kind of draw-ish, I kind of liked Ugas. I thought, he was trying to make the fight, and Porter was kind of trying to figure out what fight he wanted to make.
I would have been okay with a draw, but I definitely don't think he lost the fight. I just don't think he did enough to kind of claim and scream robbery. But, the funny thing is, every time I watch these black Cubans fight, I remember this interview years ago with Bob Arum where he basically said, he was outlining the reasons why he couldn't promote Rigondeaux.
Promote him, right. Mm-hmm.
And one of them was these black Cubans, they don't have a fan base. The white Cubans, they don't support them, and they don't have any fans in the and it's kind of true. So I always have a kind of a soft spot for these guys because the money in Miami is post-revolution Castro money, guys who fled because they didn't want to get their assets seized, pretty much the Bacardi types. And they don't really support these guys that were amateurs for the longest in Cuba and obviously are of a different a race. Obviously African Americans don't embrace these black Cuban fighters, so they don't really have much of a fan base or anyone screaming robbery or crying for them when they lose these fights. Would have been probably done wonders for him had he won, because he would have probably got a high six-figure, maybe low seven-figure payday against Spence or Thurman, and now he's, we may probably not even see him on TV again. But it's tough. I mean, they just cannot box that style where you barely win or do enough to really solidify a victory and get victories in the U.S. So I was just gonna say that real quick about that fight. with Triple G, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm just not. I was never really that excited about seeing him with DAZN or with anybody else. Are you guys still excited about Triple G?
Not really. I got to be honest. Not really. If anything, I'm more like, okay, you signed with them. I've kind of been more of, I think we're at the end of his career. What is the farewell going to end up ending like? I think that's where I'm at with him. I know they want pretty big. Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
Sorry,
what were you saying?
No, I was a big Triple G fan for the longest, and I'd always tune in to see him. But he really did lose me when he fought Duenez in that fight on HBO. I get it. There were circumstances around why he fought Duenez, but I'm pretty sure that he could have fought Derevyanchenko. At least that's what Lou DiBella was saying. And he went from being all about the belts and, Mexican style, quote unquote, and to, avoiding a mandatory defense, dropping his title and fighting Duenez and blowing him out. Like, I've never liked guys that blow out opponents that have no shot. I don't know if you guys remember Jeff Lacey from
yes,
like a while ago. He came up on Showtime.
Yeah, the Olympian. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was one of my first interviews.
Nice enough guy. I get it, but I just could not become a fan of his because I was in my teenage years. I'm growing up. I'm watching this guy fighting on Showtime, blowing out guys that have no shot. It was just. It's almost like bullying to me, to a certain extent. Everyone who saw that fight knew that Duenez had no shot.
And we kept talking to him. He's a warrior and this and that. It's like, we're setting him up to go out on his shield. Like, what about this is sporting?
Yeah,
I didn't like that fight at all.
Blow out Duenez? It's like, excuse me. I mean, he just lost me as a fan when that happened. And he had a guy willing to fight, his mandatory, a guy who ended up arguably, I would say he at least deserved a draw. It was a good fight, a close fight. I don't mind that he, was a close loss. But Derevyanchenko, when he fought Jacobs, this is a good fighter. I would have liked to see him face that guy. But, you fight Duenez, and it's like, bro.
And Jacobs fought him, and you're like, why didn't you face this guy? I mean, Lomachenko's facing his mandatory. Now, granted, Krola is not Derevyanchenko, but still, like, you take care. Part of being a champion is doing that part of the business, right?
Agreed.
That guy earned his spot. I don't really like that guy. That's not your problem. I mean, it is your problem because it's your mandatory.
It is, and apparently the guy had been waiting well over a year, maybe even close to 2 years, like waiting for this shot. Just waiting waiting.
You can't bitch about a date that never existed for Sergio Martinez and Triple G to face each other. Like when you line up their careers next to each other, it's like the complaint that Triple G was avoided by Martinez makes no sense because one guy was on pay-per-view.
Right on the head.
Yeah, one guy was on pay-per-view. The other guy was still he hadn't even fought Gil yet. He was like making his debut as like the third replacement on a fight on an HBO card when the other guy was doing pay-per-view. It doesn't line up. But exactly. When the shoe was on the other foot.
When the shoe was on the other foot, he did the exact same thing as these, highly promoted, decorated superstars did, or at least he said they were doing to him.
Right.
What I mean?
This is how we got Trump. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, you just lost me, man. And then we had a disagreement about this before, Gabe, but I'm sorry. On this one, we're just going to agree to disagree.
What's
this
that?
whole thing about how he, tied Hopkins' record of middleweight title defenses and passed Carlos Monzon. I'm sorry. But the WBA regular title does not count as the middleweight championship. Those fights count towards that record, And, again, it's like he's all about the belts. He's Mexican style. well, wait a second. Like, you're discrediting a long legacy of Mexican guys who fight very
I never liked that.
gracefully. You know, get the fuck out of here with the Mexican style.
It's always bothered me.
Type of Mexican styles. You know what I mean? So you got that. Then you add in the thing he did with dropping the title and facing Duenez. And then on top of it, you know, you're claiming you've got more defenses than Monzon and all these other middleweight greats because you held the WBA regular title for a bunch of years and made defensive of, like, who recognizes that as a world championship?
It's an excellent point.
I guess. Huh?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. No, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
You know, I don't consider myself, you know, a big historian head. I do, you know, recognize the lineal championships. I think that does matter because that's history. It's the man who beat the man who beat the man. It can be traced back. All these other titles, it is about, you know, what you do with the belt once you get it. But yeah, you also should be looking. I mean, he did look to unify. There's the narrative that all these guys wouldn't face him. But you know, you stepped up, really believing in for himself, and took that fight. I think that's a good win, though. The music.
Jacobs wasn't dodging him. And let's also not forget the fact that he signed the fight. He signed the fight Billy Joe Saunders
and Pirog.
And then when he got the fight with Canelo, the rematch pulled out of a fight with Saunders. You know, look, he's just not who he was purported to be. And you look at the history of like a guy like Carlos Monzon, right? This guy fought everywhere. He went all over the world. He was all over Europe, all over Latin America, all over the United States, literally fighting everybody. You know what I mean? Yeah, Hagler too. And then you want to say that you've got more defenses than them? Get out of here, man. And that's enough on Triple G. What I wanted to say about Mikey and I'm sorry, man.
You know what? I'm a big historian buff when it comes to boxing. I got a bunch of stuff here in my office. I actually go to these antique stores because my wife likes to go and shop there. But I always hunt down like old boxing magazines, Ring, or the Wrestling and Boxing mags. I don't know if you guys remember those. It was the Wrestling and Boxing mags. But and to go back to your point about these bouts, right? These bouts are just these titles that are being given. It's almost like we're in that we're in that generation where, you know, the kid that actually did the most, the MVP, gets the trophy, but then the rest of the team, and even if you didn't participate, gets a trophy too. Boxing is kind of become like that. We're just giving out belts, you know, to make them feel good and to give them that chance of saying, well, I did make some type of history, you know. I don't blame Triple G for accepting it. I blame the system and how they've created it, you know. And I think that's why a lot of folks are after the head of Tom Lawford because they've been turned off. They got turned off, just how you said you got turned off about the Martirosyan ordeal.
Look, he's doing what he has to do. Just don't give me the triple BS or quadruple BS. You know what I mean? That's what it is. I mean, look, you go to ESPN.com/boxing, right? They always have a little link you could click for the current title holders. I mean, in some weight classes, like 6 fucking titles, right?
Yep.
You've got the regular, the super, and then you've also got interim. I mean, there's times when the WBA has 3 champions at the same time, right? You want to consider those title defenses? No,
isn't there a new title for the Danny Jacobs and Canelo? Isn't there a new title on the line now that I think they were saying the Cinco de Mayo belt or something like that?
Come up with all of this stuff, man. Diamond belt.
No, it's like a Mayan warrior belt. It's like a Mayan warrior. It's a word that translates to, or a phrase that translates to Mayan warrior. You know, alluding to Mexico's roots. Some people are very confused by that idea, but you know, when they are a Mexican organization, they probably know their roots better than we do. It's but they're gonna bestow something on it, and it's their way of I don't know, dipping their beak. I don't know if these guys are paying any sort of sanctioning fee for the Mayan Warrior belt. Mayan Warrior, incidentally, is a really cool art card, Burning Man, that plays some pretty awesome music. If you ever run into Mayan Warrior out there, I assure you you'll have a good time.
My believe it or not, my grandmother's actually part Mayan, so you know, I've always been interested in that stuff. But look, the First Nations, Indigenous, their languages, symbols, and you know, they've always been appropriated for these money-making themes. So it doesn't surprise me that it would happen again, even in Mexico.
No, I mean, they even get it wrong in the movies in Hollywood. I mean, Apocalypse, that one. God, you know? So, anyways, but let's go on.
It could be worse. It could be the Columbus.
It could be a lot worse. By the way, quick digression, but Roma on Netflix is a very good movie, the Mexican one. But no, quickly, Errol Spence, Mikey Garcia. You know, I heard somebody saying earlier that he's going up from lightweight. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think he had like 20, maybe even 30 fights at featherweight. You know, he like, what was his last fight at featherweight? It was like against a Puerto Rican guy, right? Juanma.
It was against Juanma Lopez, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he fought a long time as a featherweight, right? Then he goes up to 130, then 135. He's seriously outsized in this fight. I'll tell you why I like Mikey. You know, I don't think anyone should do anything they don't want to do, even if they're good at it. And for 2 years, he didn't want to fight for Top Rank. You know, he gets a lot of slack for it, but, you know, who's to say that someone should go in the ring and get bruised up and cut up and put hands on somebody else if they don't want to do it fighting for someone or with an organization they don't want to be fighting with? So I actually commend Mikey for the fact that he took time out of the ring, you know, did things he wanted to do in that time. I understand he went to school and did other things, you know. So I like him for that reason. I like, you know, his autonomous kind of independent mind state. Having said that, you know, the old saying is what, that a good big man beats a good little man, right? So it's going to be tough. Mikey can fight on the inside, but I see him more as kind of an outside fighter, like a counter puncher.
Yeah,
right?
He was always like a sniper, waiting to get you.
Yes, exactly. And can he do that against Spence? You know, I hope he can, because I want to root for the underdog. But it's going to be tough, very tough. And, you know, he decided to take on this challenge. You know, sometimes you need these challenges to kind of motivate you in the gym and, you know, do the tough training and work that's required to be an elite boxer. So I'm not saying that he shouldn't have taken this fight. I just see it as a serious uphill climb for him. And I'll definitely be tuning in. But if I had to bet money, I wouldn't be betting on Mikey as much as I want him to win.
I'm going Spence just based on that axiom alone. You know, just a good big man beats a good little man. And I think that Spence is a good big man. He should fight more often. Amilcar, where are you going to watch the fight?
I'll probably watch it at home. The thing is with the movie theaters, I don't know any movie theaters in New York City that show fights, man. I live in the Bronx. Up where I live, the movie theater here doesn't show it. I often go to the movies, and I actually go to the movies a lot. I have something called A-List from AMC. You go to 3 movies a week for $20 a month. And if I could use that to go to this, I'd definitely do it. But I don't know. You know what? I'm going to have to look into that when I get off this call.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can go to, what is that, Fango or something like that? Because that's how I found where it was playing. Well, I mean, previous fights, like the Wilder and Fury.
Fango?
Fango. I think it's
Fandango.
Fandango.
Failing that, I'll just invite some people over.
There you go, Fandango.
Okay.
An underrated Kevin Costner as well as a place to get movie tickets. Fandango.
Fandango.
All right, man. Well, we need to get sponsored by them. Anything else, man?
No, man. That's pretty much it. You guys talked about the Bivol fight and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of reminds me of like young Tito Trinidad without the punch, you know?
Yeah, but you know what that might be, Gabe? That might be the fact that he's moved up in weight, because by all accounts he can fight at 168, right?
Yeah.
So,
right.
You know, it's like almost like Trinidad when he was fighting at 168 or at 160, wasn't.
Well, 160, yeah.
devastating as he was at 147 or even 154. But no, he does remind me that. You're absolutely right, Gabe. That's a great point. He does remind me of that.
Real classic punches. He likes to throw that lead, and just it's all with the feet. You know, it's all just kind of skating around. As Tito got older and heavier, it was like relied on like sitting on that power. Just devastating. God, there hasn't been a guy like that to me since. Just a real knockout puncher that does it for me the way Tito did. But I'm getting misty. I may have to take another shot. It might just be the red ball. I don't know. But all right, man. Well, enjoy the fights.
One thing I'll leave you guys with: people need to look into this stuff that's going on in Venezuela, man. The truth is coming out, and
man.
All type of people are involved in what's happening down there. So,
I've been tweeting about it, pretty regularly. If anybody that
okay, that's
actually,
good, man. I haven't been off Twitter, but that's good.
Yeah. Since from the beginning. I mean, it was like The Intercept, that podcast, had a journalist on who was talking about the bridge that they were saying that was supposedly blockaded. And the guy did like satellite footage going back years. And he's like, no one's ever used that bridge. It doesn't,
Wow.
And that was,
it happened years ago with Chavez. Whole documentary about it. But I got to re-download that podcast. Thanks for the reminder. Anyways, man, we just got to keep an open mind. And, Gabe, you keep up the good fight, man.
I appreciate it. Check out Crime Town, too. They do one on Providence, Rhode Island, like a season, and then the other one, the current season, is on Detroit. Pretty good stuff. Crime Town.
Got it. Sounds like something that a vulture capitalist look for.
Yeah. Well, enjoy.
All right, thanks.
All right, man.
You guys take care.
You too, man. Thanks. Let's patch in one more caller here before we wrap it all up here on Leaving the Ring.
He's been very patient. Juan in San Diego, you're live on Leaving the Ring.
Good hearing
Long
you
time
again,
no talk.
guys. How are you? Yeah,
same to you.
Good. Good thing you're back. Yeah, so
Thank
real
you.
quick, I know we have a little time for this, so I just wanted to give my
3.5
2 cents
minutes.
about some of the things on Melcar was commenting about Triple G and all the whole WBA thing. I see boxing in 3 different eras. The golden age, from the Marcus of Queensbury all the way to probably Joe Louis and Marciano. That era is one. Second era is from that until the probably 90s, 2000, and then right now. I divide it in three because it's not the same. We can't compare Monzon with a Triple G because the landscape is totally different now. You can't, it's not the same. There's a lot of titles. There's the money's not the same. The amount of fans are not the same. It's very different. It's very difficult to compare eras. When the main fighters are only fighting 2 times a year, because it's not only the PBC. Let's be honest.
The only thing that hasn't changed though. But see, here's the only thing that hasn't changed in boxing is the manipulation and the corruption of money and everything else that has come in line. You know what I mean? That stayed the same.
That's the common denominator between all 3 of them. But again, in the end, I decided at one point that me being a fan, a historian myself, like a big fan of the history of boxing, I stopped comparing because you can't. It's not the same. It's not fair to the guys from the past, as well as not fair to the guys from the present because things are not the same. But that being said, I did want to cover a little bit about what's going on right now with the fight this weekend, which I find very intriguing. I didn't get to listen to the beginning of the show, so I don't know what your guys' opinion is, but I'll give you my 2 cents on that. I think, when I heard about the fight, I was happy about it. I said, well, finally something that I can look forward to, even though it sounds like in this match, it might not be. It might not be for many reasons. We're talking about 2 quality guys. I've seen a lot of guys from smaller weight classes go up in weight and be successful. Just recently Manny Pacquiao. Guys that start jumping in weight and then get to a place where they can match up, especially with a guy like Spence that only fights 1 to 2 times a year. So he has a shot. I think he has a shot, but I think my pick is Spence for one reason and one reason alone. He's as good as him. So I think that if everything was equal, he would still be, he would still be competitive with him. Technically, both guys have their, are to me are the same. Now, if you add the size and the power, then he has an advantage. So I think Spence is gonna edge it out because of that. Not because he's more powerful. Yeah, that's the easy way out. I do think both guys technically I would probably give it to Garcia, but in the end, I see a lot of good things on Spence. You know, his fight versus Kell Brook, you can see the inside, the body work, his IQ, the boxing IQ. That's the word. He's really good. I think that's the thing, that people are not giving him enough credit for his technical ability. They're just saying, no, he's too big and too strong. That's not the only reason. He's a tough guy too.
No, he's calm, cool, and collected. And the bigger guy that may be moving to 54 at some point. This is not his only stop as a weight class. But we got to wrap it up there. Dave, thanks so much, man. Great points.
Well, there you go. I mean, hey, this is the reason why fans are intrigued by this. I think everybody that's came on and called in have given some great insight of what they think is going to happen on Saturday night between Errol Spence Jr. and Mikey Garcia. Once again, had a great time. We'll be back Monday to talk about the review of the fight here on Leaving the Ring, so don't miss us at 5 p.m. Monday. As always, don't drink and drive because you will spill your beer. Gabriel?
Peace.
Charbroiled double deals from Carl's Jr. Pick one of 3 for only
$2.99 each.
The jalapeno double, the double cheeseburger, and the California classic double.
Only $2.99.
Carl's Jr. Gigantic flavor.
Small price.
Available for limited time. Price and participation may vary. Price higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Tax not included.